all of this footage that you're going to see in this video was taken during a little session where I was trying to get some footage for some good backstabs, parry, swap riposts, just flashy stuff in general. So I was, going for a lot of that kind of stuff. This is at soul level 55. I've got +6 weapons. These invasions just happened to get kind of caught in the crosshairs of the rest of the footage that I was trying to get. My PlayStation, when I press the record button, it records the past 30 minutes of play. So I honestly didn't really, I had no plans to use these invasions outside of maybe the backstabs or something. But as I continued playing, this little narrative got built about this player, whose character's name is Reverend Sullivan. I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's Rev Sullivan. And he doesn't kill Pontiff Sullivan. He just runs around the level with his friends. He runs around the level by himself. He gets invaded, and then he summons Blues, and he attempts to gank invaders that show up. And there were some good clips in these invasions. But by the end of the play session, by the time I got done playing the game, which was, you'll see at the end of this video, this story had become so coherent and so precise that really I had no option but to take all of the clips and use them. Fortunately, these invasions were in between, the invasions where I'd get the backstabs, and so then I would save that footage, and it just happened, that this footage was along with that, because it records the past 30 minutes. Okay, that's the preamble. 2 minutes down. Now, we can just sort of talk, which is why I wanted to make this video. So we didn't get any gameplay footage or any further information about Elden Ring at the Game Awards, and that sucks. I was really expecting that we would get something there, just because it would fit, From Software's typical model with a game. We usually don't see them go this long in between, hey, here's what we're working on, and then we get to see the game. Granted, a lot of that might be because we always see their games leaked early. And I don't mean these leaks like you get on Reddit or 4chan or wherever the hell else. The 4chan Bloodborne leak, that was legit. But all these leaks where it's just people talking, there's no screenshots, there's no video, they're just whatever. It's just people speculating and pretending like they know something for whatever reason. Alright, I don't buy into any of that. There is one person who posts online who is very obviously legit about what they know, and they've been vetted. They've basically been verified, I guess. So when that person posts and I see, it's not, they don't leak things so much as they just sort of tell us stuff. This person will typically give everyone a heads up before From Software shows up at an event. That didn't happen with the Game Awards, so I was still cautiously optimistic, but I wasn't very hopeful, if I'm being honest. So yeah, no Elden Ring at Game Awards. The game hasn't, there's no leak out where we see all the mechanics that will eventually be cut from the game. The bonfire mechanic, the sacrifice mechanic, the world tendency turned the day into night, and it changes how multiplayer works. We're not seeing that. Miyazaki hates leaks, allegedly, and I don't know why he wouldn't. A lot of developers don't like leaks. They work very hard to put together trailers. They work very hard to give you information that is, solid, and then they present it to you. When a game leaks, there is a chance, perhaps, that things change. For example, the sacrifice mechanic in Dark Souls 3, the create your own bonfire mechanic, that changed in between the leak and when the game was, ready to be announced. Now, there were interviews where Miyazaki talked about, the bonfire mechanic, sacrifice, and all that. But that was sort of in that awkward phase post-leak where, he's having to explain what's going on. What's with these pictures that we've seen? We have seen screenshots of your game. How come it's day and then it's night? And then he has to explain to us, bonfire mechanic, sacrifice mechanic, etc., etc. But then that gets completely removed from the game. So it makes sense that a developer would not like leaks. So Miyazaki, the what we have heard from rumor and innuendo is that he despises the games getting leaked. And interestingly enough, since he's become the president of From Software, we don't see leaks like we used to, which is interesting. I don't know if that's like you can imagine some of these companies might purposefully leak their games before their developers are finished working on them, just to get people, their appetite whetted, just to get people hyped up. Or you could also say that since Miyazaki's president, he's taken a more firm stance on making sure leaks don't get out, that sort of thing. Either way, this is a long time. We've been through a lot with no new gameplay, and I feel so over dramatic when I say all this shit. Like, it's a video game. It's a product that we're going to purchase, But these are the only video games that I put this much time into, and I would put this much time into them even if I didn't have this YouTube channel, even if I didn't stream on Twitch. I would still put this much time into these games because I enjoy them. I am not a gamer. I do like video games, but I have other stuff that I like to do. I have personal responsibilities and social obligations, and playing a video game is not the core essence of my being, it is for a lot of people. In fact, had it not been for Dark Souls, I probably wouldn't play video games as much as I do. I still like to dabble around in new stuff if something comes out and it, sparks my interest. Dead Cells or Hollow Knight, the Resident Evil 2 remake, Outer Worlds, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm interested in that, but I'll play those games a few times and, just move on. But what move on means is I just go back to playing Souls games. A lot of people say that the Souls games ruined other video games for them, and I get that. It didn't necessarily ruin other video games for me. It's the only one that I was interested in. There's not games that are like this. If you're watching this and you're new to the channel, you've not seen many or any of my videos before, first, hello, and second, I do a lot of invasions. I don't care much for the organized PvP, organized player versus player in these Dark Souls games. A lot of people really enjoy it, and that's great. Hope you have a wonderful time. But for my money, the most interesting post-game content is, without a doubt, invasions. I love Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne invasions specifically because the invader is he's tasked with defeating the host, but the host will almost always have someone to help him out. And as we're watching in this situation, this guy, this host that I've invaded, he is just summoning in all of these blue spirits, and the blues show up, and their job is to kill me. My job is to kill the host. It's wild, it's chaotic, it's insane. and for as long as I've played video games, back when I was a kid even, the dream was you play a game and you could take your character, who was like an ultimate badass, and you could go into other people's games. Like, that was like the coolest thing in the world to imagine. And then since Demon Souls came out, we actually have that now. You can make a character, your own character, you create it, and then you can take it into someone else's game and you can affect their game. And that's a ton of fun. What we have right now is a lot of people who understand how to sort of cheat the system. They're not cheating, I'm just using that turn of phrase. They know how to stack every possible advantage they have. Because the invader is expected to be well prepared, the host gets these other advantages, like being able to summon people to come help him. He has bonus health. His weapon can be upgraded to a higher level. He can be a higher level than the invader. 3 years after Dark Souls 3 has been released, because it's been 3 years since this game came out, people who know how to game the system, they like to stack the odds in their favor, which is what you're seeing here. Anytime I get close to beating this opponent, he just immediately runs into the boss. He's got twice as much Estus as I do. He's got a bonus 30% health. He has at least the same weapon upgrade as me, if not better, and he is at least my level, if not higher. Actually, I guess I could check that at the end of the video. I will check and see what level this guy was. So anyway, this is what happens when we have a game that's 3 years old. It gets really stagnant. You see the same faces a lot. You see a lot of the same kind of shitty attitudes or whatever. And just sort of is what it is, isn't it? I hate that expression. It is what it is. Well, of course it is what it is. So this is... this adds to the bumming effect of no Elden Ring. It's been 3 years. I am super spoiled. If you started enjoying Dark Souls at Dark Souls 3, you don't know what you're missing, insofar as what we used to have. Let me explain what we used to have. Used to, you got a new game by From Software like every year and a half at most. Like Demon Souls to Dark Souls to Dark Souls 2 to Bloodborne to Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin to Dark Souls 3. Those games were just like pop. Every year they would come out. And then Miyazaki became president, and the games slowed down. And rightfully so. When you look at a game like Sekiro, it is so well polished. I understand, me personally. Maybe not you. Maybe you disagree. If you do, you're wrong. But that's okay. Everybody's allowed to be wrong. A game that polished takes time. And so before I was talking about all the leaks that used to happen. We used to get all those leaks all the time, and we would know what to expect. We would know what was coming up, and the games would come out like once a year, maybe a year and a half, then nothing for like 2 years. And then we get Sekiro, and Sekiro was great, but it didn't necessarily scratch the same itch. I can't go play Sekiro and invade somebody else's world. I can go back and play Sekiro and get better at it and get better at it and get better at it, and I do. I have enjoyed it. Sekiro is the only game I have played in its entirety from New Game to New Game Plus 7. I've never beaten a From Software game at New Game Plus 7. Never cared to. Never had the drive or the desire to do it. I would go to New Game Plus 3 or 4 and see all the endings and get the Platinum Trophy, and then I was like, okay. Every time after that, I would just make new builds, so I would be starting all over on New Game. But with Sekiro, it was so engaging, I decided to play to New Game Plus 7. Here, another invader shows up, but I know this invader, because let's go back. Let me take you back. While I was trying to get these backstabs and these parries, I invaded this person. So again, you have someone who has not defeated their boss, just standing around with an extra 30% HP, and fighting invaders with all the handicaps in their favor. All right, so I just wanted to, this is how slow the game has become. Like, you see the same faces over and over again. But back to what I was saying. With all the leaks that always came out from the games, all the games always, they would leak early or whatever. We get Demon's Souls. I didn't play Demon's Souls when it came out, but Demon's Souls came out. It was a PlayStation 4 exclusive. I'm sorry, PlayStation 3 exclusive, and no one expected it to do well. It sort of became a cult hit. Bandai Namco published the game in Europe, and Sony published it in Japan, and Atlas published it in the United States. And that's how little anyone really believed in the game. Sony obviously did not, PlayStation obviously did not believe the game was going to do well. And there's plenty of evidence for that, but that's a different history lesson. Anyway, Bandai Namco says they see how well the game sells, and then they say, hey, let's do this for all consoles. And so Dark Souls comes out. From Software at the time didn't have a lot of push behind their name. They weren't like some, big-dicked company that could make these demands and say like, hey, this is how we want to do this. They were sort of at the whims of Bandai Namco. So when Bandai Namco said, we want the game on, we want it by this date, we want it out, Dark Souls suffered a little bit. It was rushed, and that's obvious to anybody who's played the game. Make it to Lost Izalith, and you'll see. Yeah, they rushed it, and you can't fault them for it, really. They're just trying to get the game out. So Dark Souls 1 comes out, and it changes like all of gaming. Like the whole gaming industry gets a makeover because of this one game, Dark Souls. And Bandai Namco has From Software sign a contract for 2 sequels, Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. Well, at the time, Miyazaki is working on Bloodborne. And Bloodborne, they kind of get to take their time with. And when Bloodborne comes out, everyone who's played Bloodborne considers it one of the best Souls games, and you can tell it wasn't rushed at all. Dark Souls 2 had a really troubled development. The lead developers, the directors, changed halfway through. One of them just left, and so they kind of had to rush. So here you go. This guy also just wants to go fight the boss all of a sudden. Can you imagine? And this is the guy who's showing up to invade with me. This is supposed to be my help, right? I'm just showing you this clip so that you can see, like, I'd already met this person. This is the player who's supposed to help me win an invasion. And he can't, with 30% extra health, he can't win. Good lord. So, Dark Souls 2 rushed. Dark Souls 3 also seems like maybe it was a little bit rushed. Like we said, we know several mechanics that were cut from the game. And just because a mechanic is cut from the game does not mean that the game was rushed. It is entirely possible that mechanic was removed for a different reason. I'll get to that in just a second. having said all that, we always say, every time one of these games comes out, yeah, but could you imagine if they hadn't had to have rushed this? Could you imagine how good it would have been if they hadn't rushed it? And, Elden Ring. We're all very excited. We're all very, very excited, and we're very disappointed that we didn't see anything at the Game Awards. There was no new information. But they've been working on this game for 3 years, which is obviously longer than they usually work on games. And they aren't being rushed. From Software is a big deal company now. They know that if they want to, they could just go work with Activision. Activision will publish our game, and they won't make us rush. From Software has a little bit of bullying power, bargaining power. And so the fact that they have this game now that's not being rushed, I think we just have to kind of live with it. I want to see it just as bad as everybody else. But if that means, if not seeing it in this delay, if that means that we're going to get like a finished masterpiece, hey, okay, I think I'll take it. I think I'll take it. That brings me back around to the people who have never had to wait for a From Software game before. So yeah, you maybe you're not accustomed to new game. So maybe this, this wait is the first time you've had to wait for a game, or you might be like me and you've waited for a game to come out before. You've waited for Dark Souls 3. You waited for Sekiro. You waited for Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2. You waited for those games to come out. I would just remind you all that it ends. It has a finish. And think about it. I've been putting out some weird Saint Riot weird videos on my YouTube channel for the past couple of months, but I did that with a purpose. I wanted you to remember that these games are out. You can just play them. You can just play the game right now. And one day, very soon, you will look back on this little period of time where we weren't getting any news or any information, and it'll just be a distant memory because you'll have the game. Future you is already playing Elden Ring. And they're thinking back to this day. And they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't so bad. Later, y'all.